Hi everyone, welcome to our Made for More podcast. I am here with Ryan and Jamie.
Come on.
Hiya.
What a team.
What a team we have. So if you've been following along the past couple of weeks, you will know that we have finished our Let's Talk series. What a series it was.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Amazing.
Really good. Finished last week with Adam sharing his story of alcohol and drug use, and honestly it was incredible, and we just want to say thank you to everyone who took part in that series, honestly, and thank you to everyone who listened as well. It was really, we're overwhelmed by the amount of people engaging. And just before we move into a series, the next series we're going to do is called Walk With. So we've done Let's Talk. We've had a lot of people share about their stories of struggling with certain mental health and how circumstances in their lives have maybe led them into that space. But now what we're going to do, we're going to change gear a little bit, and we're going to move into a series called Walk With. And it looks at people giving advice for how we walk with people who are struggling with this. So maybe you're a friend, maybe you're a family member, maybe you're a teacher, even sometimes as like a health professional, walking through this journey with people who might be struggling. So we're going to move into that next week. But today what we're going to do is we're kind of like bridging the gap here. We've had a lot of questions come in throughout the series from people who are struggling, or people who are walking with people who are struggling, and we thought we would answer some of those today. So Ryan, I'm going to hand over to you.
Yeah. Thank you.
He's feeling the nerves.
Mom of the question.
He is feeling.
I feel like I'm on the BBC News.
We give him a bit of power, and this is where he takes it. So he is going to ask some questions, and we're going to just have a bit of a discussion about that today. As always, this is not a medical podcast, so if you are feeling a bit anxious, if you are struggling with your mental health or feeling ill in any way, please contact your GP, or there's loads of other resources out there on our website for you to contact. But this isn't a medical podcast. This is just a bit of an educational podcast. And today it's just a chat and a conversation between us.
It's good. Thanks, Zara. So, first question coming in. Can you prevent mental health problems, Jamie?
Ooh.
I'm starting. I was looking to Zara there.
I know you were. That's the reason I went to.
It very much depends. Like there's, I suppose what I've learned over the last few years is that there's no one size fits all to any issue that people may be struggling with in relation to their mental health. And different things can trigger mental health issues. It could be from a situation. It could be all to do with the chemicals in your brain. There's so many things that impact our overall mental health. But saying that, there are some things that can be stopped, that can be reduced, and that is just by how we live our lives and how we create a real positive lifestyle with positive choices. Even just looking at things as simple as sleep and diet and exercise, that can have a massive impact on improving your mental health and could prevent you from struggling with certain issues. Yeah. But at the same time, you may have everything in place and still find that you struggle, and that's the reality.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. And we talk in Made for More about this. It's like a traffic light system, like your red zone, your amber zone, your green zone. And I acknowledge, so if you're in your green zone, that means that you're good, you're feeling healthy, you're able to cope with life just generally. So we say to people, notice where you are in your green zone. What sort of things are you feeling? And what are you doing? Who are you hanging out with whenever you're in your green zone? So whenever you're feeling really good, what sort of people are you surrounded with? What sort of activities are you engaging in? Maybe you're working out a lot of the time. Maybe you're going for walks with friends. Maybe you're playing sport, doing music, drama, things that you're involved in. When you're feeling good, acknowledge what is around you and acknowledge why you're feeling that way. Then if you move up into your amber zone, amber is where you're starting to maybe feel a little bit of anxiety, or you're noticing you're starting to feel a bit low, you're starting to have certain thoughts, and start actually catching that. So start acknowledging. And the thing to acknowledge is, it's not saying, I'm sure I'll feel better tomorrow. It's actually realizing to yourself, okay, well, if I've identified for me, this is my green zone, well, I'm not there right now. So what do I need to do to get myself back down into that green zone again? And a lot of that is just mindfulness activities. It's breathing exercises, a lot of things like that to bring, because whenever you have your heightened system, whenever you start going into amber and red, what you'll notice is your nervous system and your body starts to increase. Your heart probably is pumping more. You're starting to feel, there's over 100 different symptoms of anxiety. So whatever way, you don't get to decide what your body does when it goes into feeling anxious or that heightened adrenaline. So you'll go into fight or flight, but what you want to do to move back down into green is to get your body into this rest and digest stage. And that's from breathing exercises, mindfulness exercises, and just acknowledging in your green zone, being who are you around again. Okay, that'll bring me down again. Where do I feel comfortable? What do I enjoy doing? Okay, that'll bring me down again. And then your red zone. And I always say, have a plan before the red zone. So if you notice you're in amber, obviously have a plan to get yourself back down. But if you notice there's maybe an event or a trauma that happens and you go into your red zone, well, have a plan. If you know you struggle with mental ill health, have a plan before you get into your red zone.
Right.
And one of the guys we had on the podcast, Richard Martin, he is phenomenal at this. Like he knows whenever he goes into his kind of like periods of depression, there's certain things that lies that his mind will tell him, and he knows what they are. So whenever he's really, really good and he's feeling in his green zone, he does so much work that whenever he goes into his red zone, he's like, no, this isn't truth. And he knows he can't cope when he's in his red zone. So all the work that he did whenever he was in his green zone, really, really helps him to bring himself back down again. Whereas at the start, whenever he didn't have those tools, whenever he didn't put them in place, he was just staying in that red zone for a lot longer.
Right.
But it looks like doing the work. It looks like, but the main thing is recognizing ourselves. I even tell some clients that I work with to create a timeline. Okay, so create a 24-hour timeline of your day. Like your normal day, and then identifying it. Okay, so what here brought me life? So what here like motivated me? So you can put like an M on that. So what motivated me here? What brought me life? Then we have D for like depleted me. So what actually like made me feel tired? It made me feel really weary. And then what nurtured me? Like what did I actually feel like filled up in? Because we can be motivated and we can do things, and it can be like work things, but they can be a bit of both. Like I felt motivated, but I'm also tired after that, you know. But what actually did I have in place that nurtured me in those moments? So things like your breathing exercises and things like that. And it's identifying. So if you can never identify something in your day that motivated you, or else if you're looking just at deplete, and you're like not having anything that's nurturing, that's whenever there's stuff to look at as well. So as much as sometimes stuff can't be avoided, there are definitely things you can put in place to help you whenever you might struggle.
One of the analogies you first introduced me to when I started Made for More was the idea of looking after your mental health the same way you do your physical health.
Yeah.
Right? Like that is so helpful. So, because what I'm hearing you guys say is, yes, there's some things that you can't avoid, but you actually maintaining and looking after your mental health.
That's it.
Does make a difference.
It's not just expecting, oh, everything will be okay and I'll wake up tomorrow. We all have to take ownership of every aspect of our lives, and including our mental health. And when it is tough, we have to fight for it. You know, we have to fight. Like all those things Zara's talking about, they're not maybe your natural behavior, but if you want to get better, if you want to stay healthy, you have to fight for that. Yeah. Especially in the world we live in, when there's so much, that impacts our mental health in a negative way. We have to fight to remain in a healthy place. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good, guys. Thank you. It's kind of flown on from this then is what tools could I do to help me? I think that what they mean by that is what tools could I do to look after my mental health, right? So you've already talked about a few. Yeah. Any others you guys would add?
I think for me, I suppose just again speaking from my own personal experience, routine is a really big one, right. Because it just allows me to be in control of the most basic things. So maybe I have real heightened anxiety, and maybe I'm very stressed, or you could be feeling really down, but you can't control every aspect of your life, but you can control a basic routine. Right. Deciding I'm going to get up at this time of the day. I'm going to make my breakfast. I'm going to go for my run. I'm going to study. I'm going to do this tonight. And just then going from, those small wins. Like I successfully got up today. I want to reward myself for doing that. Yeah. And routine can be really, really effective in just helping you, maintain your mental health. Yeah. Problem solving as well is one. Actually writing it down, journaling, and taking maybe something that is causing anxiety in your life, and rather than just, for me, I always sit in my head and go over it and over it and over it. Instead, I'm learning to stop, write it down, and actually problem solve it. Yeah. And you do suddenly realize, well, that's a phone call to someone who knows how to do it. That problem solved, and anxiety starts to fade. And the final one for me would be sleep. We gotta sleep more, and it isn't always easy. I know Zara, has a young daughter at home who doesn't like to let Zara sleep all the time. But if you're younger and if you don't have a baby keeping you awake, don't be sitting up all night on your phone. Right. Get the sleep. Get a good bedtime routine. If it's switch off the phone, read, hot chocolate, wind down.
Yeah.
Try and get a good chunk of sleep, 8 to 10 hours, because that will reduce your anxiety and it just sets you up better for the next day.
So routine, sleep, and problem solving.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
they're probably 3 for me.
Brilliant. What about you, Zara?
Yeah, I probably for me, I don't really want to spend too much time. I know we don't have ages on
Yeah.
this, so I don't want to spend too much time, because we actually have our resources page that has loads of mindfulness exercises, loads of this. So if you
shout
go
out.
on to if you go onto our website, go on to the need help part, and go on to the mindfulness exercises, there are loads of different things that you can help you with. And the same way we eat 3 meals a day, we should be, as we've talked about in the podcast, doing 3 things a day to set our minds. But one of the things that I would say that most people who come to me who are struggling, the first thing I would say is cut caffeine out of your diet. Like,
Wow.
it just needs to go. It's really, really unhealthy.
You just dropped that bomb on a lot of coffee
Yeah.
drinking.
It's like, honestly, it's really unhealthy and really unhelpful.
Right.
And you will notice as soon as so your body's already at a fight or flight, so it's already at this heightened adrenaline, and then you fuel it with even more caffeine. It's like it just needs cut. If you are struggling, it does. And to be honest, it probably, all of us should be looking to lower it, myself included, in that. And
Put
just
the flat white away.
put them, I know. And then just generally look at your diet. Like, look, probably we should be looking more protein in our diet, less like sugars and things like that. Not so much of the highs and lows,
Yeah.
because it just doesn't help us. So yeah, so looking at our diet and just what we were saying, and there's loads of other things on there
So
as
that
well.
page, check out that page. 'Cause
Yeah.
There's loads more mindfulness.
Well, there's
activities on
loads,
there.
and even things like sleep. It's not just, well, here I'm deciding not to sleep whenever you can, but it's like, well, what are you doing when you're not sleeping? You're filling your mind with Instagram or TikTok or
Right.
Snapchat or things that are actually unhealthy. So you're not getting sleep, but you're also filling your mind with stuff that isn't
Yeah.
helpful either. So yeah, the sleep's massive as well. So yes, so check out the resource page.
Guys, that's
for
great.
that.
Super. Thank you. Next one's tough. Like, so obviously somebody has shared about their mental health with somebody, and they've asked, what if I tell people and they don't understand? So they've shared it and people just don't seem to get it.
Yeah, and I think even just, last week I did the podcast with Adam, and he was sharing about his addiction with alcohol and chatting with Adam on camera and off camera. That was something that came out a lot.
Yeah.
And he is at a place now in his life where he understands that his friends can't understand him and the journey he's been on.
Right.
And that's okay. That's the reality. He's been through so much, and his alcoholism has caused him to behave in so many different ways that it doesn't make sense to him, never mind the other people.
Right.
And I think that's the reality sometimes. Not everyone is going to understand how we're feeling. And that is okay. And that shouldn't make you feel really bad and think that you're weird because they don't get you.
Right.
Everyone's mental health is different.
Right.
And even if you have depression and you share with a friend who's depression, it's most likely going to look completely different.
Right.
And I just almost think you have to acknowledge that and be like, they're not going to always get me, and that's okay, just like I don't get them.
Right.
I don't know what you have to add there, Zara?
Yeah, I would just say as well that, like, the reality is they probably won't. Like, people won't understand. And a lot of the time, whenever we go into it, we need people to fully understand. It's like we need that from people, and we're not going to get it. So I think we need to acknowledge that we're not going to get it. But I think the most important thing is nobody is responsible for your
Right.
mental health apart from you.
Right.
So people, as much as you share, people will be there. And what I would say on the flip side is, if someone is coming to you, if you're that person maybe on the other end and you're trying to communicate that you do understand, but you're like, this person isn't getting this and I'm trying and I keep saying all the wrong things. It's things like shifting your language a little
Yeah.
bit into not like, you'll be fine, you're okay, into just, I'm here. Like, I'm listening. Like,
Yeah.
that's really hard to hear.
It's great.
It's things like that. It's not actually just telling them what to do, but it's like shifting that language.
Yeah.
But I think if we think that we're only going to get better when people understand us, we're never going to get better.
Yeah.
And we have to just make the choice that we want to get better, and the choice that actually there needs to be a way out of this without people feel understanding. Because like I could, because of what I've grown up with, the lens that I have on life is completely different than the two of you. Like,
Right.
all three of us will hear a story and we will hear it differently through our different lenses. So even if I am trying to be empathetic, trying to show someone that I really care, like, you guys might think that I really do, but I could be like, oh, that person didn't care at all.
Right.
You know, it depends on the lens that we grew up with, the narrative that we have of this person and what we're looking for. You know, I think a lot of the time we think if someone understands, then I'll get better.
Yeah.
But that's not, like, getting better isn't that. Getting better, it's part of it, obviously speaking out. And it's great if you feel like you have someone who does really get it.
Yeah.
But the onus isn't on other people. The onus is on you. To actually dive into that, and you're responsible for your own mental health. Even with my counselling clients, I have to say in session 1 every time I say, you know, I'm not here to do the work. Like, I'm here to work with you and to walk with you and to journey with you. But so a lot of the time what we find is whenever we share, and I know I did this whenever I was younger and really struggling, I shared with someone because I wanted them to fix it. Yeah. So I wanted them, I wanted to share with the person, and I thought everything in me got all the courage up to share what was going on in my head, because I was like, if I share this, they'll fix it and it'll be great. They'll know what to do. But that's not how it works.
Right.
It's so good talking about it. It's so good sharing, but it's actually, we have to do the work to do it. So the onus is back on us. You know, people will journey with us, but they're never going to do it for us.
Can I also say there, just to take the weight off the person listening who feels the pressure that I need to understand in order to fix them. You know, I think we all feel like that sometimes. Like, you don't.
Yeah.
Just be a good listener.
Yeah.
Make them feel safe. You know, let them know that you care about them, and you don't need to have the answers.
Right.
But that conversation could be the first step in you helping them get to the person that can really help them.
Yeah.
So just take the weight off. Just listen, make them feel safe, make them feel loved. You don't need the answers.
Yeah.
And that will actually help things massively.
That's great. Thank you. We don't actually have time for all the questions here, but I want to keep, people are waving at me, which we do, and means our time is coming in. But there's a couple I do just want to make time for
That's
here.
okay.
So
Yeah, that's fine.
this is another really important one. My friend has confided in me that she is struggling, but I don't want to break her trust. Any advice?
I just think you don't have an option. You know, if your friend has confided in you, especially if they are like under 18, the young person, like, you don't have, like, you're actually caring about them by telling someone. They might think it's a bit of a breach in trust, but it is completely done out of love. Like, they're not getting better. They might have told you, but they're not getting better with just you. They actually probably need a little bit more help, but also they need so how we look at it in counselling, you need like a web. You need like a network. Oh, the mic drop. You need like a network of people. So that's what we would do on the start of our sessions, is actually make sure everyone is fully supported, because that is the best way to get healing.
Right.
So having just one friend who you've told, and the thing is, if they're saying don't tell anyone, it's because they don't fully want to talk about it, or they don't fully even know what's going on. And that, like, a lot of young people don't, and that's okay. But actually, there's professionals in the world. There is help out there for them. So what I would say is, I know you have to be super brave to do this, and I know it can feel like completely against the grain of like, no, they've trusted me, but it's actually doing a real benefit to them. And it might not even look like telling their parent. It might look like telling a teacher, or, you know, just tell a trusted adult who you know that person has a relationship with and that can get them the help they need. You're doing it for them. You're not doing it to gossip. What I would 100% say is, do not tell one of your friends. Do not try and say, oh, here's so-and-so struggling, what do you think we should do? And it's actually, you're saying, oh no, but I'm just looking to see how we can help this person. But actually you're just gossiping about them. That's really unhelpful, and it puts that person in a really vulnerable and unsafe space. But what is helpful, if you tell a trusted adult, that has to happen. And it's not breaking trust, it's actually loving them really well.
Super. Great. Thank you. Last question then to finish, because I think we've covered a few of the others in what we said. This final one is, why is there still a stigma around mental ill health? Somebody's written in.
Yeah, I think for me, the reality is we're pushing back against generations of people in our society that haven't wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't understood for a long time, and then it just wasn't maybe valued and seen as important. So we're now at a moment in our history, you know, here in Northern Ireland in particularly where culturally it's now like it's just opened up. And that is, it might feel like, oh, we've always talked about mental health. No, like when Made for More started, even just 3.5 years ago, this was still very, very new.
Totally.
You know, and schools didn't have it in policies and weren't talking about it. Workplaces weren't. And then the pandemic hits, and it almost becomes,
Accelerated.
It accelerates, and everyone now talks about mental health. So it's only now beginning. So there is going to still be stigma. People are still going to not have the language. They're going to feel uncomfortable about it, and we shouldn't judge them for that.
Yeah.
Because they're having to unlearn behaviors that they've had for generations, and we just have to slowly and carefully work together to bring it out into the light in the right way.
Yeah.
And just using the right language and letting people come at their own pace. So, whether it's in your workplace, your school, your church, whatever setting it is, if you feel there's still a stigma around this, it's then finding a way to, well, how do we bring it forward in the right way, at the right speed? But we do need to talk about it. We do need to bring it forward, and we do need, over the next generation of young people to help by talking about it, by making it accessible, by having the right tools and resources in place, and even just something as simple as this podcast, sitting down and listening with your family, your spouse, your friends. That is a different world than what this country would have looked like 10 years ago. It really is.
Totally.
Yeah.
Anything you would add to that, and then do you want to kind of close us out here and let us know where we're going next week?
No, I just love that. I completely agree. I think especially in Northern Ireland, the reason why we have the highest suicide rates in Europe, and we have 25% higher mental ill health statistics than the rest of the UK, are because we are on the back of generations and generations and generations who don't talk. I think that is the bottom line. It's that men need to be, men don't cry, men don't talk about stuff, they just kind of pour on, where our minds don't do that. Like that's not how our minds work. They're still holding the trauma. We're just not talking about it. It's not that it doesn't exist, where I think we've had this thing, if we don't talk about it, it's not there. If we're silent about it, it means it's not happening, but it is happening in all of our minds. The reality is people are just struggling because of it. So I think that I agree with everything Jamie said with that. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who asked questions. Thank you guys for coming today, answering the questions. And we're really excited about our next podcast. Next week we are going to have Rebecca McCulloch. She has an incredible story, an incredible journey, and what she is doing, she has created I don't want to share too much of her story, but a consultancy called Eden. Spoiler alert. Eden Consultancy, where she works with kids with autism and their parents, and she helps them so much, and also talks about them with mental health. And it's an area that we really want to navigate into, and also start the conversation, because we have a lot of parents whose kids are autistic, and we just think it'll help a lot of people. So this is in the start of our Walk With series. So we thank you for joining us today, and we will see you again next week.
Thank you.